Question 1. The performance metrics show a consistent trend of project delays, and the site supervisor has expressed concern about the pace of work. During a routine inspection, several IBEW members have raised concerns about the safety of a particular scaffolding setup, citing potential instability. The union steward has documented these concerns. What is the most appropriate course of action for the union to take in this situation? Option A. Instruct members to stop working on the scaffolding until a third-party safety expert is hired by the union to assess the situation. Option B. Escalate the issue directly to the project owner without first engaging the employer through the established grievance process. Option C. Advise the members to continue working while the union investigates the safety concerns independently to avoid further project delays. Option D. Immediately initiate the formal grievance procedure outlined in the collective bargaining agreement to address the safety concerns regarding the scaffolding. Correct answer is D. Immediately initiate the formal grievance procedure outlined in the collective bargaining agreement to address the safety concerns regarding the scaffolding. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for project completion with the long-term implications of worker safety and adherence to established protocols. The union's role as a representative of the workers' interests, coupled with the employer's responsibility for a safe working environment, creates a complex dynamic. Careful judgment is required to navigate these competing priorities without compromising either worker well-being or project timelines. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the safety of the IBEW members by addressing the identified hazard through established grievance procedures. This aligns with the IBEW constitutional mandate to protect the rights and welfare of its members, including their right to a safe workplace. It also respects the collective bargaining agreement, which typically outlines procedures for addressing safety concerns and disputes. By following the established grievance process, the union acts as a responsible advocate, seeking a resolution that upholds both safety standards and contractual obligations, thereby preventing potential accidents and legal liabilities for all parties involved. An incorrect approach that involves immediately halting all work without following the agreed-upon grievance procedure would be professionally unacceptable. This action could be seen as a violation of the collective bargaining agreement, potentially leading to disciplinary action against the union or its representatives. It bypasses the established channels for dispute resolution, undermining the contractual relationship and potentially creating an adversarial environment. Furthermore, it might not effectively address the root cause of the safety concern if the employer is not formally notified and given an opportunity to rectify the issue through the proper channels. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the safety concerns to meet the project deadline, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly contravenes the employer's legal and ethical obligation to provide a safe working environment, as mandated by occupational safety and health regulations. It also fails to uphold the union's duty to protect its members from hazardous conditions. Such an approach could lead to severe consequences, including worker injuries, fatalities, substantial fines, legal action, and irreparable damage to the reputation of both the employer and the union. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the collective bargaining agreement, relevant safety regulations, and the union's constitution. It requires open communication with both the affected members and the employer. The process should prioritize identifying the hazard, documenting the concerns, and then initiating the appropriate grievance or safety reporting procedure. If immediate danger is present, emergency protocols should be followed, but even then, subsequent formal reporting and resolution are crucial. The goal is to achieve a resolution that ensures worker safety while respecting contractual obligations and regulatory requirements. Question 2. Governance review demonstrates a significant and immediate need for additional skilled electricians to meet current project demands. The union leadership is considering several approaches to address this shortage. Which approach best upholds the principles and regulatory framework of the IBEW Aptitude test and its associated apprenticeship programs? Option A. Initiate a comprehensive review of the apprenticeship program's capacity, explore avenues for expanding training opportunities, and develop a strategic plan for increasing apprentice intake to meet future needs while ensuring current standards are maintained. Option B. Reduce the duration and rigor of the existing apprenticeship training curriculum to expedite the graduation of current apprentices into journeyman status. Option C. Immediately admit individuals with perceived relevant experience directly into journeyman status, bypassing the formal apprenticeship intake and training process to fill immediate project gaps. Option D. Prioritize the hiring of non-union workers to address the immediate labor shortage, deferring any considerations of expanding union apprenticeship programs. The correct answer is A. Initiate a comprehensive review of the apprenticeship program's capacity, explore avenues for expanding training opportunities, and develop a strategic plan for increasing apprentice intake to meet future needs while ensuring current standards are maintained. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for skilled labor with the long-term implications of training and development, all within the framework of IBEW standards and apprenticeship agreements. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and compliant method to integrate new members while upholding the integrity of the apprenticeship program and ensuring fair treatment of all stakeholders, including existing members, apprentices, and the union itself. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which involves a structured review of the apprenticeship program's capacity and a commitment to expanding training opportunities, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of the IBEW. This approach prioritizes the long-term health of the trade by investing in the development of new electricians, ensuring a skilled workforce for the future. It aligns with the IBEW commitment to providing comprehensive training, fair wages, and safe working conditions for its members, including apprentices. This method upholds the integrity of the apprenticeship agreements, which are designed to provide a clear pathway for individuals to become journeyman electricians through structured learning and on-the-job experience. It also demonstrates a proactive and responsible approach to workforce planning, anticipating future needs, and ensuring the union's continued relevance and strength. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach, which is to immediately bypass the established apprenticeship intake process and directly admit individuals as journeymen based on perceived immediate need, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This bypasses the fundamental purpose of the apprenticeship program, which is to ensure a standardized and comprehensive training experience. It undermines the value of the apprenticeship agreements and the structured progression of skills and knowledge. Ethically, it is unfair to individuals who have diligently followed the apprenticeship path and to existing journeymen who have invested years in their training. It also risks introducing individuals into the workforce who may not possess the full range of skills and safety knowledge expected of a journeyman, potentially compromising job quality and safety. Another incorrect approach, which is to prioritize the hiring of non-union workers to fill immediate gaps without considering the impact on the apprenticeship program, is also a regulatory and ethical failure. This approach disregards the IBEW mandate to organize and train its own workforce. It can lead to a dilution of union standards and a weakening of the union's bargaining power. Ethically, it is a disservice to existing members and apprentices who rely on the union to secure work and opportunities. It also fails to address the root cause of the labor shortage, which is the need for more trained and qualified electricians within the union structure. A third incorrect approach, which is to reduce the training standards or duration for new apprentices to accelerate their entry into the journeyman ranks, is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates the established apprenticeship agreements and the IBEW commitment to producing highly skilled and competent electricians. It compromises the safety and quality of work performed by these individuals and devalues the qualifications of all IBEW journeymen. Ethically, it is a betrayal of the trust placed in the union to provide a rigorous and meaningful training program. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a situation should first consult the specific IBEW apprenticeship agreements and relevant national and local union bylaws. They should then engage in a collaborative discussion with union leadership, training directors, and potentially signatory contractors to assess the true nature and duration of the labor shortage. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to established union protocols, the integrity of the apprenticeship program, and the long-term development of a skilled and qualified union workforce. This involves a thorough evaluation of current training capacity, potential for expansion, and strategies for attracting and retaining new apprentices, rather than resorting to shortcuts that compromise standards and ethical obligations. Question 3. Strategic planning requires a methodical approach to problem-solving and decision-making. When faced with a complex operational challenge that has implications for future project timelines, which of the following represents the most effective strategy for developing a solution? Option A. Rely on past experiences with similar issues, assuming the current situation is identical. Option B. Conduct a thorough analysis of the problem. Explore multiple potential solutions and evaluate their respective pros and cons before selecting the optimal path forward. Option C. Consult with colleagues to determine their preferred solution before forming an independent opinion. Option D. Immediately implement the solution that appears most straightforward and requires the least immediate effort. The correct answer is D. Immediately implement the solution that appears most straightforward and requires the least immediate effort. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an individual to balance immediate operational needs with long-term strategic goals, all while adhering to the specific principles and practices of the IBEW Aptitude test framework. The pressure to deliver a tangible outcome quickly can often overshadow the need for a structured, well-reasoned approach, making careful judgment essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a systematic evaluation of all available information and potential solutions before committing to a course of action. This aligns with the IBEW Aptitude test's focus on problem-solving, critical thinking, and the ability to apply learned principles to practical situations. By considering multiple perspectives and potential consequences, this method ensures that the chosen solution is not only effective in the short term, but also sustainable and aligned with broader objectives, reflecting best professional practice in decision-making. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing the most obvious or immediately available solution without thorough analysis. This fails to demonstrate the critical thinking and comprehensive evaluation expected in aptitude assessments. It can lead to suboptimal outcomes, missed opportunities, or the implementation of solutions that do not address the root cause of the problem, potentially violating the spirit of structured problem-solving inherent in the IBEW Aptitude test. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on past experiences or intuition, without validating them against the current context. While experience is valuable, aptitude tests often assess the ability to adapt and apply knowledge to new situations. Over-reliance on intuition can lead to biases and errors in judgment, failing to meet the rigorous analytical standards required. This approach neglects the systematic, evidence-based reasoning that is a cornerstone of professional competence. A third incorrect approach is to seek external validation or opinions before forming an independent judgment. While collaboration is important, the aptitude test aims to assess an individual's own analytical capabilities. Deferring judgment prematurely can indicate a lack of confidence in one's own reasoning skills or an inability to independently process information, which are critical competencies for effective decision-making. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that involves clearly defining the problem, gathering relevant information, identifying potential solutions, evaluating each solution based on defined criteria, including feasibility, impact, and alignment with objectives, selecting the best solution, implementing it, and then reviewing the outcome. This structured approach ensures thoroughness, objectivity, and accountability, mirroring the analytical rigor expected in professional assessments like the IBEW Aptitude test. Question 4. System analysis indicates that an apprentice electrician is preparing for the IBEW Aptitude test and has encountered conflicting advice regarding the emphasis to place on theoretical versus practical application scenarios within the test. One source suggests focusing heavily on memorizing complex electrical formulas, while another emphasizes understanding the underlying principles of circuit behavior and troubleshooting common issues. Which approach best aligns with the likely intent and design of such an aptitude test for the electrical trade? Option A. Concentrate on learning the specific wiring diagrams for a limited number of common residential applications, assuming the test will be highly specialized in its practical examples. Option B. Focus primarily on the historical development of electrical codes and standards, believing that a deep understanding of their origins will be the key to answering test questions. Option C. Dedicate the majority of study time to memorizing a wide array of complex electrical formulas, assuming the test will heavily favor rote memorization of mathematical equations. Option D. Prioritize understanding the fundamental principles of electrical theory and how they apply to practical problem-solving and troubleshooting scenarios, as this reflects the core competencies required for safe and effective electrical work. The correct answer is D. Prioritize understanding the fundamental principles of electrical theory and how they apply to practical problem-solving and troubleshooting scenarios, as this reflects the core competencies required for safe and effective electrical work. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret and apply complex, potentially conflicting information within a specific regulatory context. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate course of action when faced with differing interpretations of guidelines, especially when those interpretations could impact operational efficiency and safety. A nuanced understanding of the IBEW aptitude test's purpose and the underlying principles of electrical work is crucial for making a sound decision. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of the information, prioritizing the most reliable and authoritative sources. In the context of the IBEW aptitude test, this means understanding that the test is designed to assess foundational knowledge and problem-solving skills relevant to the trade. Therefore, focusing on the core principles and practical applications that the test aims to measure, rather than extraneous or subjective interpretations, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the ethical obligation to uphold the standards of the trade and ensure competence. The regulatory framework implicitly supports this by emphasizing the need for qualified individuals to perform electrical work safely and effectively. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to rely solely on anecdotal evidence or the opinions of less experienced individuals. This fails to adhere to the principle of evidence-based decision-making and can lead to misinterpretations of the test's objectives. Ethically, it undermines the integrity of the assessment process and could result in individuals being unprepared for the actual demands of the job. Another incorrect approach is to overemphasize minor details or obscure interpretations of guidelines that are not central to the core competencies being assessed. This demonstrates a lack of focus on the practical application of knowledge and can lead to inefficient preparation. It also risks misrepresenting the scope and intent of the aptitude test, potentially leading to a skewed understanding of what constitutes readiness for the trade. A third incorrect approach would be to dismiss the importance of the aptitude test altogether, believing that practical experience alone is sufficient. While experience is vital, aptitude tests are designed to identify a baseline level of understanding and potential. Ignoring this assessment tool is a failure to engage with a standardized measure of competence, which can have regulatory implications if it leads to the placement of unqualified individuals in critical roles. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that involves 1. Identifying the core objective, passing the IBEW aptitude test effectively. 2. Gathering information from authoritative sources, official study materials, experienced mentors, established trade practices. 3. Evaluating the relevance and reliability of information, prioritizing core concepts over peripheral details. 4. Applying critical thinking to synthesize information and develop a preparation strategy. 5. Seeking clarification from trusted sources when faced with ambiguity. This structured approach ensures that decisions are grounded in sound judgment and align with professional standards and regulatory expectations. Question 5. Quality control measures reveal that a subcontractor has deviated from the specified electrical wiring standards on a recent project, potentially compromising safety. The project manager is aware of the deviation, but is under pressure to meet a tight deadline. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Advise the subcontractor informally to be more careful in the future and continue with the project, assuming the deviation is minor and unlikely to cause significant issues. Option B. Document the deviation thoroughly, initiate a formal review process to understand the root cause and impact, and schedule a meeting with the subcontractor to discuss findings and collaboratively determine corrective actions. Option C. Immediately halt all work by the subcontractor and issue a formal notice of noncompliance, demanding an immediate and complete rework of all affected installations before proceeding. Option D. Overlook the deviation to avoid delaying the project, assuming the subcontractor has a good track record and the deviation is unlikely to be a serious concern. The correct answer is C. Immediately halt all work by the subcontractor and issue a formal notice of noncompliance, demanding an immediate and complete rework of all affected installations before proceeding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge where a deviation from established safety protocols is identified during a routine quality control check. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to address the identified issue with the potential impact on project timelines and the established working relationship with the subcontractor. A hasty or overly aggressive response could damage trust and lead to further complications, while a passive approach could compromise safety standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured, evidence-based response that prioritizes safety and adherence to established protocols. This aligns with the core principles of responsible conduct and regulatory compliance expected within the IBEW framework. By initiating a formal review process, gathering all relevant documentation, and engaging in a collaborative discussion with the subcontractor, the individual demonstrates a commitment to due process, fairness, and the resolution of issues in accordance with established procedures. This approach upholds the integrity of the quality control system and reinforces the importance of safety standards without resorting to immediate punitive measures. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately issuing a formal reprimand and demanding immediate corrective action without a thorough investigation. This fails to adhere to principles of fairness and due process. It bypasses the opportunity to understand the subcontractor's perspective or potential mitigating circumstances, which could be crucial for effective problem solving and maintaining a productive working relationship. Ethically, it can be seen as an overreaction and potentially damaging to professional relationships. Another incorrect approach is to overlook the identified issue due to time constraints or a desire to avoid conflict. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It directly contravenes the purpose of quality control measures, which are in place to ensure safety and compliance. Ignoring a deviation from safety protocols can lead to dangerous situations, potential accidents, and violations of industry standards, exposing both the individual and the organization to liability. A third incorrect approach is to address the issue informally with the subcontractor, without documenting the findings or the agreed-upon resolution. While informal communication can be part of a collaborative process, failing to document the issue and the corrective actions taken is a critical oversight. This lack of documentation prevents proper tracking of recurring issues, hinders future quality control efforts, and leaves the organization vulnerable if further problems arise or if an audit is conducted. It undermines the systematic approach to quality assurance. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should employ a structured decision-making framework. First, acknowledge and document the identified deviation. Second, gather all relevant information and evidence, including project specifications, safety protocols, and any subcontractor documentation. Third, assess the severity and potential impact of the deviation. Fourth, consult relevant internal policies and procedures for handling quality control issues. Fifth, engage in open and professional communication with the involved parties, seeking to understand the root cause and collaboratively develop a solution. Finally, ensure all actions and resolutions are properly documented. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, fair, and in compliance with all applicable regulations and ethical standards. Question 6. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a minor equipment malfunction that could cause a temporary work stoppage. The potential impact is assessed as low in terms of safety, but moderate in terms of project delay. Considering the IBEW commitment to efficient project completion and worker safety, which of the following actions best reflects a responsible decision-making process? Option A. Implement preventative maintenance checks on the equipment immediately to mitigate the risk of malfunction. Option B. Document the risk and continue with the current work schedule, addressing the malfunction only if it occurs. Option C. Allocate additional resources to expedite the project, assuming the malfunction will occur and cause delays. Option D. Escalate the risk to a higher authority without proposing a specific mitigation strategy. The correct answer is A. Implement preventative maintenance checks on the equipment immediately to mitigate the risk of malfunction. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret a visual representation of risk, the risk matrix, and then make a decision based on that interpretation, considering potential consequences and the appropriate course of action. The challenge lies in accurately assessing the severity and likelihood of the identified risks, and then selecting the most prudent and compliant response. The IBEW Aptitude test, in its assessment of decision-making, aims to gauge an individual's ability to apply logical reasoning and adhere to established protocols when faced with potential issues. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and informed decision-making process. It involves understanding the implications of the risk matrix, considering the potential impact on safety, operational efficiency, and adherence to IBEW standards and relevant safety regulations. This approach demonstrates a commitment to proactive risk management and responsible action, which are fundamental to maintaining a safe and productive work environment as expected within the IBEW framework. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost savings without adequately considering the potential severity of the risk fails to uphold the paramount importance of safety and compliance. This could lead to regulatory violations, increased likelihood of accidents, and significant long-term costs that far outweigh any short-term financial benefit. Another incorrect approach that involves ignoring the risk altogether or downplaying its significance is a direct contravention of the principle of due diligence and responsible oversight. This demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and a disregard for potential harm, which is ethically and regulatorily unacceptable. A third incorrect approach that involves making a decision based on personal bias or incomplete information, rather than the objective data presented in the risk matrix, undermines the integrity of the decision-making process and can lead to suboptimal or dangerous outcomes. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that involves 1. Clearly understanding the problem or situation, in this case, the risks identified on the matrix. 2. Gathering and analyzing relevant information, the matrix itself and any accompanying context. 3. Identifying and evaluating potential courses of action. 4. Selecting the best course of action based on established principles, regulations, and ethical considerations. And 5. Implementing and monitoring the chosen action. This structured approach ensures that decisions are well-reasoned, compliant, and aimed at achieving the best possible outcome while mitigating potential negative consequences. Question 7. Comparative studies suggest that aptitude tests for unionized trades often probe a candidate's understanding of collective responsibility versus individual autonomy. In the context of the IBEW aptitude test, which of the following approaches best reflects the expected professional judgment when encountering a situation where a personal belief conflicts with a union-agreed-upon procedure for resolving workplace disputes? Option A. Prioritizing adherence to the union-agreed-upon procedure, recognizing it as the established mechanism for fair resolution that all members are bound by. Option B. Suggesting that the union's procedures are outdated and should be bypassed in favor of a more direct, personal approach to conflict resolution. Option C. Dismissing the importance of the union's established procedures, viewing them as an impediment to personal freedom of expression and action. Option D. Advocating for immediate individual action to address the dispute, believing personal conviction supersedes any collective agreement. The correct answer is A. Prioritizing adherence to the union-agreed-upon procedure, recognizing it as the established mechanism for fair resolution that all members are bound by. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a member's personal beliefs and the established ethical and operational standards of the IBEW. The aptitude test is designed to assess a candidate's understanding of these standards and their ability to apply them in a professional context, even when personal views might differ. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between personal opinion and professional obligation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it demonstrates an understanding of and commitment to the IBEW core principles, which include collective bargaining, worker rights, and adherence to union agreements. This approach prioritizes the collective good and the established framework for resolving workplace issues, aligning with the IBEW mission and the regulatory framework governing labor relations. It shows an ability to set aside personal biases to uphold professional responsibilities. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on individual rights without acknowledging the collective bargaining framework fails to grasp the fundamental nature of union membership and its obligations. This represents an ethical failure to respect the democratic processes and agreements established by the union for the benefit of all members. Another incorrect approach that suggests circumventing established union procedures to address personal grievances demonstrates a lack of understanding of due process and the importance of working through the proper channels, which is a cornerstone of labor relations. and can lead to disciplinary action or undermine the union's authority. An approach that dismisses the relevance of the IBEW ethical guidelines entirely is a direct violation of professional conduct and demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of the responsibilities associated with being a union member. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that involves identifying the core issue, understanding the relevant professional standards and regulations, in this case, IBEW guidelines and labor laws, evaluating potential actions against these standards, and selecting the action that best upholds ethical obligations and professional responsibilities. This involves recognizing the distinction between personal beliefs and professional duties. Question 8. Assessment of the appropriate preparatory activities for the IBEW aptitude test, considering the need to demonstrate genuine aptitude without compromising the integrity of the examination process. Option A. Utilizing official IBEW-provided study materials or resources explicitly recommended for test preparation. Option B. Seeking specific questions and answers from individuals who have recently completed the IBEW aptitude test. Option C. Relying exclusively on general aptitude test preparation books that do not specifically reference the IBEW aptitude test. Option D. Engaging with unofficial online practice tests that claim to mirror the IBEW aptitude test's format and difficulty. The correct answer is D. Engaging with unofficial online practice tests that claim to mirror the IBEW aptitude test's format and difficulty. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in interpreting and applying the IBEW aptitude test's guidelines regarding the use of external resources during the assessment. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between permissible preparatory activities and prohibited actions that could compromise the integrity of the test. Professionals must exercise sound judgment to ensure compliance and uphold the fairness of the evaluation process. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves understanding that the IBEW aptitude test is designed to assess an individual's inherent aptitude and learned skills without external assistance during the actual examination. Therefore, engaging in practice tests, study materials that closely mimic the format and content of the official test, but are not explicitly authorized by the IBEW for pre-test familiarization, could be construed as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage. Best professional practice dictates adherence to the spirit and letter of the IBEW stated guidelines, which aim to ensure a standardized and equitable assessment for all candidates. This aligns with the ethical principle of academic and professional integrity. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves utilizing unofficial practice tests found online that claim to replicate the IBEW aptitude test. This is professionally unacceptable because it bypasses the IBEW intended assessment methodology and potentially exposes the candidate to inaccurate or misleading content, thereby failing to prepare them effectively for the actual test and violating the principle of fair assessment. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on general aptitude test preparation books that do not specifically address the IBEW aptitude test's unique structure or content. While general preparation is beneficial, it fails to meet the specific requirements of the IBEW evaluation, potentially leading to a misallocation of study effort and an incomplete understanding of what is being assessed. This represents a failure in targeted preparation and a lack of adherence to the specific assessment's demands. A third incorrect approach is to seek out individuals who have recently taken the IBEW aptitude test and ask them for specific questions or answers from their experience. This constitutes a direct breach of test security and academic integrity, as it involves obtaining confidential information about the test content. This is a severe ethical failure and undermines the validity of the entire assessment process. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situation should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the explicit rules and guidelines provided by the assessing body. This involves actively seeking clarification from the IBEW if any aspect of the preparation guidelines is ambiguous. The process should involve a self-assessment of proposed preparation methods against these guidelines, focusing on whether the method enhances genuine aptitude or provides an unfair shortcut. When in doubt, the most conservative and compliant approach should always be chosen. The ultimate goal is to demonstrate one's capabilities fairly and ethically. Question 9. When evaluating a candidate's potential for success in an electrical apprenticeship program and considering the principles behind the IBEW aptitude test, which approach best reflects the spirit and intent of such an assessment? Option A. Relying on the candidate's prior work experience in unrelated fields, believing general work ethic is the primary determinant. Option B. Focusing on the candidate's familiarity with specific electrical terminology and common troubleshooting steps, as often found in practice exams. Option C. Prioritizing candidates who demonstrate the fastest completion times on assessment tasks, assuming speed correlates directly with efficiency. Option D. Assessing the candidate's ability to apply logical reasoning and problem-solving skills to novel scenarios, mirroring the cognitive demands of the trade. The correct answer is D. Assessing the candidate's ability to apply logical reasoning and problem-solving skills to novel scenarios, mirroring the cognitive demands of the trade. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret and apply the IBEW aptitude test's underlying principles to a new, unforeseen situation. The challenge lies in moving beyond rote memorization of test content to a conceptual understanding of the skills and aptitudes the test aims to measure. This requires careful judgment to ensure that the chosen approach aligns with the test's purpose of identifying candidates with the necessary foundational abilities for success in an apprenticeship or trade. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core objective of the IBEW aptitude test, assessing a candidate's readiness for the demands of the trade. By focusing on the underlying cognitive skills such as problem solving, logical reasoning, and spatial awareness, this approach ensures that the evaluation is relevant and predictive of future performance. This aligns with the ethical principle of fairness and meritocracy, ensuring that candidates are assessed on their actual capabilities rather than superficial factors. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on memorizing past test questions or answers fails to assess the candidate's ability to adapt to new problems, a critical skill in any trade. This is an ethical failure as it misrepresents the candidate's true aptitude and could lead to placing individuals in roles for which they are not adequately prepared, potentially leading to safety issues or reduced productivity. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over accuracy overlooks the importance of careful, methodical work, which is paramount in electrical work, where precision is essential for safety and functionality. This is a regulatory failure as it disregards the implicit standards of quality and safety inherent in the IBEW training and apprenticeship programs. A third incorrect approach that relies on subjective impressions or personal biases rather than objective assessment criteria is also professionally unacceptable. This is an ethical failure as it introduces unfairness and discrimination into the evaluation process, undermining the integrity of the IBEW selection procedures. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objective of the assessment, i.e., identifying candidates with the aptitude for electrical trades. This involves understanding the skills the IBEW aptitude test is designed to measure. Next, they should consider various methods of assessment, evaluating each for its relevance, reliability, and fairness in relation to the defined objective. The chosen method should then be implemented consistently and objectively, with a focus on evaluating the underlying skills rather than superficial performance. Finally, a process for reviewing and validating the assessment outcomes should be in place to ensure continuous improvement and adherence to the IBEW standards. Question 10. Operational review demonstrates a recurring issue with a specific piece of equipment malfunctioning intermittently. The technician assigned to address this has a history of passing the IBEW aptitude test with strong scores in logical reasoning and problem-solving sections. Which of the following actions best reflects the application of the skills assessed by the IBEW aptitude test in this real-world scenario? Option A. The technician decides the issue is minor and can be ignored until it becomes a more significant problem, assuming it will resolve itself. Option B. The technician meticulously observes the equipment's behavior during its operation, records all relevant parameters and environmental conditions leading up to each malfunction, and then systematically analyzes this data to identify a pattern or root cause before proposing a solution. Option C. The technician relies on their past experience with similar equipment and makes an educated guess about the most likely cause, proceeding with a common repair without further investigation. Option D. The technician waits for a supervisor to provide a detailed, step-by-step troubleshooting guide for this specific malfunction before taking any action. The correct answer is B. The technician meticulously observes the equipment's behavior during its operation, records all relevant parameters and environmental conditions leading up to each malfunction, and then systematically analyzes this data to identify a pattern or root cause before proposing a solution. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret and apply the principles of the IBEW aptitude test in a practical, non-computational context. The challenge lies in understanding the underlying skills the test aims to assess, such as problem-solving, logical reasoning, and attention to detail, and how these manifest in workplace situations, rather than in the test's specific question formats. Careful judgment is required to identify behaviors that align with the competencies the IBEW seeks in its members. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on demonstrating the core competencies the IBEW aptitude test is designed to evaluate: problem-solving, logical reasoning, and attention to detail. By actively seeking to understand the root cause of a recurring issue, meticulously documenting observations, and proposing solutions based on evidence, an individual showcases these essential skills. This proactive and analytical stance is directly aligned with the expectations of a skilled tradesperson who must be able to diagnose problems, follow procedures, and contribute to efficient operations, all of which are implicitly assessed by the aptitude test. This approach reflects a commitment to continuous improvement and a thorough understanding of one's role, which are hallmarks of professional conduct within the IBEW framework. An incorrect approach that involves making assumptions without verification fails to demonstrate logical reasoning and attention to detail. This can lead to inefficient or incorrect solutions, potentially causing further problems and reflecting a lack of thoroughness. Relying solely on past experience without considering current specifics can also be problematic, as it bypasses the analytical process of understanding the unique circumstances of the present issue. Another incorrect approach, such as waiting for explicit instructions for every minor deviation, shows a lack of initiative and problem-solving capability, suggesting an inability to think critically or adapt to unforeseen circumstances, which are key attributes the IBEW aptitude test aims to identify. Ignoring the issue altogether is a clear failure in professional responsibility and problem-solving, demonstrating a lack of engagement and a disregard for operational efficiency. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the underlying skills the IBEW aptitude test assesses. When faced with a workplace challenge, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the problem, 2. Gathering relevant information through observation and inquiry, 3. Analyzing the information to determine the root cause, 4. Developing potential solutions based on this analysis, and 5. Proposing or implementing the most logical and effective solution while documenting the process. This systematic, analytical approach ensures that actions are well-reasoned, efficient, and contribute positively to the overall operation, mirroring the cognitive abilities tested by the aptitude exam. Question 11. Stakeholder feedback indicates that some individuals preparing for the IBEW aptitude test are seeking ways to bypass the standard preparation process. One candidate is considering obtaining past test questions and answers from unofficial sources to memorize them for the upcoming exam. Another candidate is contemplating focusing solely on memorizing common keywords and phrases without understanding the underlying concepts. A third candidate is exploring whether it is permissible to use a calculator for all sections of the test, even those where it is not explicitly allowed, considering the purpose of the IBEW aptitude test as a measure of foundational knowledge and aptitude for the trade. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional integrity and the spirit of the examination? Option A. Attempt to obtain and memorize answers from past versions of the test, believing this will guarantee a passing score. Option B. Prioritize memorizing common keywords and phrases found in study guides without delving into the deeper meaning or application of these terms. Option C. Dedicate time to understanding the core principles and concepts covered in the IBEW aptitude test syllabus through legitimate study materials and practice questions, focusing on developing a genuine comprehension of the subject matter. Option D. Utilize a calculator for all sections of the test, assuming it will expedite the process and improve accuracy, regardless of explicit instructions. The correct answer is C. Dedicate time to understanding the core principles and concepts covered in the IBEW aptitude test syllabus through legitimate study materials and practice questions, focusing on developing a genuine comprehension of the subject matter. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate a situation where a perceived shortcut or expediency might conflict with established protocols and the underlying principles of the IBEW aptitude test's purpose. The test is designed to assess fundamental understanding and aptitude relevant to the trade, ensuring a baseline competency for safety, efficiency, and adherence to standards. The challenge lies in recognizing that the test's integrity and the validity of its results are paramount, and any attempt to circumvent its intended purpose undermines this. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it upholds the integrity of the IBEW aptitude test and demonstrates a commitment to fair and equitable assessment. By focusing on genuine preparation and understanding the material, an individual aligns with the ethical obligation to be assessed on their own merits. This approach respects the purpose of the test, which is to identify individuals with the necessary foundational knowledge and skills for the trade, thereby contributing to a competent and safe workforce. It avoids any actions that could be construed as dishonest or an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, which are fundamental ethical considerations in any professional setting. An incorrect approach that involves seeking pre-existing answers or attempting to gain unauthorized access to test content represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly violates the principles of academic and professional integrity. It undermines the validity of the assessment process, creating an unfair playing field for other candidates who have prepared diligently. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of respect for the IBEW standards and the importance of genuine competency. Such behavior could lead to disqualification, damage to one's reputation, and a failure to develop the actual skills and knowledge required for success in the trade, potentially leading to safety risks or inefficiencies later on. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to guess answers without any understanding or preparation, while not as overtly dishonest as seeking answers, still represents a failure in professional decision-making. It shows a lack of commitment to the assessment process and a disregard for the importance of demonstrating actual aptitude. This approach suggests a superficial engagement with the material and a reliance on chance rather than on developing a solid foundation. Professionally, this indicates a potential for poor performance and a lack of dedication to the trade. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the purpose and importance of the assessment. One must consider the ethical implications of any action taken. The primary goal should be to prepare thoroughly and demonstrate genuine understanding. If faced with a difficult section or concept, the professional approach is to seek clarification through legitimate study resources or by asking appropriate questions during preparation, rather than resorting to unethical shortcuts. This involves a commitment to learning and a respect for the established processes designed to ensure competence and fairness. Question 12. Upon reviewing the terms of a new collective bargaining agreement, a member of the IBEW discovers that a specific work assignment, which they are scheduled to undertake, conflicts with their deeply held personal moral convictions. The member has not previously raised this concern during the negotiation process. What is the most professionally appropriate course of action for this member to take? Option A. Refuse to perform the work assignment and inform the employer directly that their personal beliefs prevent them from doing so. Option B. Contact the employer directly to request an individual accommodation for the work assignment based on personal beliefs, bypassing union representation. Option C. Immediately inform their union steward and business representative of the conflict and seek to explore available union-approved resolution mechanisms. Option D. Discuss their personal objections with fellow union members on the job site, encouraging them to support a collective refusal of the assignment. Correct answer is C. Immediately inform their union steward and business representative of the conflict and seek to explore available union-approved resolution mechanisms. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a member's personal beliefs and the established ethical and operational standards of the IBEW. The core of the challenge lies in balancing individual conscience with the collective responsibilities and agreements that bind union members. Careful judgment is required to ensure that actions taken do not undermine the union's integrity, its agreements with employers, or the rights of other members, while also respecting the individual's right to hold personal beliefs. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the union's constitution, bylaws, and collective bargaining agreements. These documents are the foundational regulatory framework for IBEW members, outlining their rights, responsibilities, and the procedures for addressing grievances or disagreements. By seeking to resolve the issue through established union channels, the member demonstrates respect for the democratic processes and the rule of law within the organization. This approach upholds the principle of collective action and problem solving, ensuring that disputes are handled fairly and consistently, thereby maintaining the stability and effectiveness of the union. It also aligns with the ethical obligation of members to act in good faith towards the union and their fellow members. An incorrect approach that involves unilaterally refusing to participate in a work assignment based solely on personal beliefs, without exhausting union-approved resolution mechanisms, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly violates the collective bargaining agreement, which typically mandates participation in assigned work unless specific contractual exceptions apply. Ethically, it undermines the principle of solidarity and can be seen as shirking responsibilities owed to fellow members who rely on everyone fulfilling their roles. Such an action could also lead to disciplinary action from the union and potential legal repercussions from the employer for breach of contract. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to circumvent union leadership and directly petitioning the employer to alter work assignments based on personal beliefs, is also professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the established grievance and negotiation procedures, disrespecting the authority and role of the union as the exclusive bargaining representative. It creates an uneven playing field, potentially leading to preferential treatment and undermining the collective strength of the membership. This action violates the ethical duty of loyalty to the union and its established processes. A third incorrect approach, such as spreading dissent among other members to garner support for a personal stance without following proper union channels, is also a failure. While open discussion is encouraged, doing so in a manner that incites division or bypasses official union communication and decision-making processes can be detrimental. It can lead to internal conflict, weaken the union's bargaining position, and create an environment of distrust. This approach fails to uphold the ethical responsibility to contribute constructively to the union's well-being and to respect its internal governance. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Understand the specific union constitution, bylaws, and collective bargaining agreement provisions relevant to the situation. 2. Clearly identify the nature of the conflict between personal beliefs and union obligations. 3. Consult with union stewards or business representative to understand the established procedures for addressing such conflicts. 4. Explore all available internal union remedies, such as filing a grievance, seeking a waiver, or proposing a resolution through union meetings or committees. 5. Act in accordance with the decisions made through these established union processes, even if they do not fully align with personal preferences, while continuing to advocate for personal beliefs through appropriate channels. 6. Maintain professional conduct and communication throughout the process, respecting the rights and perspectives of all parties involved. Question 13. During the evaluation of a candidate's performance on the IBEW Aptitude test, an assessor observes that the candidate consistently arrives at correct answers for a series of questions related to electrical circuit theory. However, when asked to explain the reasoning behind one of the solutions, the candidate struggles to articulate the fundamental principles, instead referencing a specific example they had encountered during practice. Which approach to evaluating this candidate's performance best aligns with the objectives of the IBEW Aptitude test? Option A. Conclude that the candidate possesses the necessary aptitude based on their high score, assuming their understanding is implicit in their correct answers. Option B. Accept the candidate's reliance on memorized examples as evidence of their problem-solving strategy, as long as the answers are correct. Option C. Prioritize the candidate's ability to explain the underlying principles and logical steps, even if it means re-evaluating questions they answered correctly. Option D. Focus on the candidate's speed in answering questions, as efficiency is a key indicator of readiness for demanding technical roles. The correct answer is C. Prioritize the candidate's ability to explain the underlying principles and logical steps, even if it means re-evaluating questions they answered correctly. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in interpreting and applying the core principles of the IBEW Aptitude test, specifically concerning the assessment of an individual's suitability for roles requiring technical aptitude and problem-solving skills. The challenge lies in distinguishing between genuine aptitude and superficial understanding, and ensuring the evaluation process itself is fair and aligned with the test's objectives. The correct approach emphasizes a holistic assessment that goes beyond rote memorization or the ability to recall specific answers. It focuses on the candidate's underlying reasoning, their ability to break down complex problems, and their capacity to apply learned principles to novel situations. This aligns with the IBEW aptitude test's purpose of identifying individuals who can learn, adapt, and perform effectively in technical environments. Best professional practice dictates that the evaluation should measure the process of problem solving and the demonstration of foundational understanding, rather than simply the outcome. This ensures that candidates are assessed on their potential to grow and contribute, not just their current knowledge base. An incorrect approach that relies solely on memorized answers or the ability to identify patterns without understanding the underlying logic fails to meet the test's objectives. This represents a failure to adhere to the spirit of the IBEW aptitude test, which is designed to gauge practical application and critical thinking. Such an approach would lead to the selection of individuals who may perform well on specific, rehearsed problems, but lack the adaptability and deeper comprehension needed for real-world technical challenges. This is ethically questionable, as it misrepresents the candidate's true capabilities and undermines the integrity of the selection process. Another incorrect approach might involve focusing on irrelevant personal characteristics or subjective impressions rather than the objective demonstration of aptitude. This deviates from the standardized and merit-based nature of aptitude testing. It introduces bias and fails to provide a reliable measure of the skills the IBEW aptitude test is designed to assess, potentially leading to the exclusion of qualified candidates and the inclusion of less suitable ones. This is a failure in professional objectivity and adherence to the established evaluation criteria. Professionals tasked with evaluating aptitude test results should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes objective evidence of skill and understanding. This involves analyzing the candidate's approach to problems, their explanations of their reasoning, and their ability to articulate the principles behind their solutions. The focus should always be on the candidate's demonstrated capacity for logical thought, problem solving, and the application of technical concepts as intended by the IBEW aptitude test. Question 14. Process analysis reveals that during the administration of the IBEW aptitude test, a proctor observes a candidate exhibiting signs of significant distress and struggling with a particular section of the test. The proctor is aware that the candidate has expressed a strong desire to join the union and has been preparing diligently. The proctor is also aware of the test's purpose in assessing foundational knowledge for apprenticeship. What is the most appropriate course of action for the proctor in this situation? Option A. Allow the candidate to take a short, unscheduled break to compose themselves, with the understanding that they will resume the test independently without any further assistance or discussion about the content. Option B. Suggest to the candidate that they might benefit from reviewing specific study materials related to the difficult section after the test is completed, implying that this is a common issue. Option C. Discreetly offer the candidate a brief, general hint about the type of problem they are encountering, without revealing specific answers, to help them overcome their block and complete the test. Option D. Immediately stop the candidate from proceeding with the test and report the observation to the test administrator for further guidance on how to proceed according to established IBEW testing protocols. The correct answer is C. Discreetly offer the candidate a brief, general hint about the type of problem they are encountering, without revealing specific answers, to help them overcome their block and complete the test. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate a situation where a perceived shortcut could lead to a violation of established protocols designed to ensure fairness and accuracy in the IBEW aptitude test process. The core of the challenge lies in balancing efficiency with integrity. The IBEW aptitude test is designed to assess fundamental skills relevant to the trade, and any deviation from the prescribed testing procedures undermines the validity of the assessment and the credibility of the IBEW qualification standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it upholds the integrity of the IBEW aptitude test by strictly adhering to the established guidelines for test administration, including the prohibition of external assistance and the requirement for candidates to complete the test independently. The individual ensures a fair and equitable evaluation for all candidates. This aligns with the ethical obligation to maintain the validity and reliability of assessment tools, which is paramount for ensuring that only qualified individuals are admitted into apprenticeship programs. This practice directly supports the IBEW commitment to developing a skilled and competent workforce. An incorrect approach that involves providing hints or direct answers to a candidate during the test is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This constitutes a breach of test security and academic integrity, violating the fundamental principle that the test must be an independent measure of the candidate's own abilities. Such an action directly contravenes the spirit and letter of the IBEW aptitude test guidelines, which are designed to prevent any form of cheating or unfair advantage. This undermines the credibility of the entire testing process and could lead to the qualification of individuals who lack the necessary foundational skills, potentially jeopardizing safety and productivity within the trade. Another incorrect approach, such as allowing a candidate to use unauthorized materials or devices, is also a clear violation of test regulations. This creates an uneven playing field, as other candidates are expected to rely solely on their knowledge and skills. It directly compromises the validity of the test results and is an ethical lapse that erodes trust in the IBEW assessment procedures. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the IBEW aptitude test administration guidelines. When faced with a situation that appears to deviate from these guidelines, the professional should first pause and consult the official documentation. If there is any ambiguity or a potential violation, the next step should be to seek clarification from a designated supervisor or testing administrator. The guiding principle should always be to prioritize the integrity and fairness of the assessment process above all else, even if it means delaying a decision or taking a seemingly less efficient route. This ensures that all actions taken are in full compliance with IBEW regulations and ethical standards. Question 15. Consider a scenario where an IBEW member, due to deeply held personal moral convictions, finds themselves unable to perform a specific task mandated by a project assignment that has been collectively bargained for and is part of the union's agreement with the employer. The member believes this task violates their conscience, but the union contract does not contain specific exemptions for such situations, nor has the union historically recognized such personal objections as grounds for work refusal. What is the most professionally appropriate course of action for this IBEW member? Option A. The member should refuse to perform the task, citing their personal moral objection, and expect the employer to accommodate their individual belief without further union involvement. Option B. The member should advocate for an immediate amendment to the union contract to include personal moral objections as a valid reason for work refusal, regardless of the established amendment process. Option C. The member should immediately inform their union representative and initiate the formal grievance procedure to explore potential accommodations or resolutions within the framework of the union contract and applicable labor laws. Option D. The member should attempt to negotiate a private arrangement with the employer to be excused from this specific task, bypassing the union's established channels. The correct answer is C. The member should immediately inform their union representative and initiate the formal grievance procedure to explore potential accommodations or resolutions within the framework of the union contract and applicable labor laws. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a member's personal beliefs and the established ethical and operational standards of the IBEW. The core of the challenge lies in balancing individual conscience with the collective responsibilities and contractual obligations of the union. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation without compromising the integrity of the union, the rights of other members, or the individuals standing within the organization. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the IBEW Constitution and established grievance procedures. This upholds the principle of due process and ensures that disputes are resolved through the agreed-upon mechanisms, thereby maintaining order and fairness within the union. It respects the collective bargaining agreement and the rights of all members, preventing arbitrary or unilateral actions that could destabilize the union's operations or violate established protocols. This aligns with the ethical obligation of union members to abide by the union's governing documents and to engage in constructive resolution of internal conflicts. An incorrect approach that involves directly refusing to participate in a work assignment based solely on personal moral objection, without following established procedures, represents a failure to uphold the IBEW Constitution and the collective bargaining agreement. This bypasses the grievance process, potentially leading to disciplinary action and undermining the union's authority and the employer's trust. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to unilaterally change union policy outside of the established amendment process, demonstrates a disregard for democratic union governance and the rights of the membership to decide on such matters collectively. This can lead to internal division and weaken the union's bargaining power. A third incorrect approach, which involves seeking personal accommodation from the employer without consulting or involving the union, fails to recognize the union's role as the exclusive bargaining representative and can create a precedent that erodes union solidarity and collective strength. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the relevant governing documents, IBEW Constitution, bylaws, collective bargaining agreements. They should then identify the established procedures for addressing grievances or seeking exceptions. Seeking advice from union leadership or shop stewards is a crucial step to ensure actions are aligned with union policy and legal obligations. Finally, engaging in constructive dialogue and utilizing the union's internal resolution mechanisms are paramount to achieving a resolution that respects both individual rights and the collective interests of the union. Question 16. The review process indicates a candidate is questioning the relevance of the IBEW aptitude test to their long-term career aspirations within the union, suggesting it only measures basic problem-solving skills and not their dedication or potential for leadership. Which interpretation of the test's purpose best reflects its role within the IBEW framework? Option A. The test is a formal requirement to ensure all new members demonstrate a basic understanding of union bylaws and historical achievements, regardless of their technical background. Option B. The test's main function is to filter out candidates who may not possess extensive prior experience in the electrical field, acting as a gatekeeper for entry-level positions. Option C. The test is intended to evaluate an individual's inherent leadership qualities and their potential to contribute to the union's administrative functions and decision-making processes. Option D. The test is primarily designed to assess foundational cognitive abilities and aptitudes that are critical for success in electrical trade apprenticeships and subsequent careers, serving as a predictor of an individual's capacity to learn and perform technical tasks. Correct answer is D. The test is primarily designed to assess foundational cognitive abilities and aptitudes that are critical for success in electrical trade apprenticeships and subsequent careers, serving as a predictor of an individual's capacity to learn and perform technical tasks. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to assess an individual's understanding of the IBEW aptitude test's purpose and its implications for career progression within the union. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires distinguishing between the test's function as a predictor of success in specific trade skills versus its role in general aptitude for union membership and participation. Misinterpreting the test's scope can lead to incorrect assumptions about an individual's qualifications or suitability for certain roles, potentially impacting their career trajectory and the union's effectiveness. The correct approach recognizes that the IBEW aptitude test is designed to evaluate a candidate's foundational abilities relevant to the demands of electrical trades, such as problem-solving, spatial reasoning, and mechanical comprehension. It serves as a standardized measure to ensure that individuals entering apprenticeship programs possess the necessary cognitive skills to succeed in the rigorous training and demanding work environment. This approach aligns with the IBEW commitment to developing a skilled and competent workforce, ensuring that apprentices are well prepared for the technical challenges of the electrical industry. It is a proactive measure to identify potential and mitigate risks of early program attrition due to a lack of fundamental aptitude. An incorrect approach would be to view the test solely as a barrier to entry or as a measure of an individual's current level of experience. This fails to acknowledge the test's predictive purpose for future success in training and the trade. Another incorrect approach is to consider the test as a definitive indicator of an individual's overall value or potential within the union beyond their technical aptitude, such as their leadership potential or commitment to union principles. The test is not designed to assess these broader qualities. Furthermore, assuming the test is a mere formality without understanding its specific skill-based focus misrepresents its significance and can lead to a lack of preparation or an underestimation of its importance by candidates. Professionals should approach situations involving aptitude tests by understanding their specific purpose within the given framework. This involves researching the test's design, its intended outcomes, and its alignment with the requirements of the roles or programs it assesses. Decision-making should be based on a clear understanding of what the test measures and how that information contributes to fair and effective selection or placement processes, always prioritizing the development of a skilled and capable workforce. Question 17. Which approach would be most appropriate for an IBEW member encountering an unsecured electrical conduit that poses a tripping hazard in a high-traffic work area? Option A. Continue working on the assigned task, assuming other workers will notice and avoid the hazard. Option B. Report the hazard to the site supervisor and await further instructions before taking any action. Option C. Temporarily move the conduit to a less visible area to prevent immediate obstruction. Option D. Immediately secure the conduit using available materials and notify the site supervisor of the hazard and the temporary fix. The correct answer is D. Immediately secure the conduit using available materials and notify the site supervisor of the hazard and the temporary fix. Explanation. The IBEW aptitude test assesses a candidate's ability to understand and apply principles relevant to the electrical industry, including safety, technical knowledge, and problem-solving. A scenario involving a potential safety hazard on a job site requires a candidate to demonstrate sound judgment and adherence to established protocols. The challenge lies in balancing the urgency of completing work with the paramount importance of safety and regulatory compliance. The correct approach prioritizes immediate hazard identification and mitigation in accordance with established safety procedures and relevant IBEW guidelines. This demonstrates an understanding that safety is non-negotiable and that deviations can lead to serious consequences, including injury, property damage, and regulatory penalties. Adhering to these protocols ensures the well-being of all personnel and maintains the integrity of the work environment, aligning with the core ethical and professional responsibilities of an IBEW member. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with work despite a known hazard without proper authorization or safety precautions violates fundamental safety regulations and ethical obligations. This could lead to immediate danger and potential disciplinary action. Another incorrect approach, such as delaying reporting the hazard to address minor inconveniences, demonstrates a lack of understanding of the severity of safety issues and a failure to prioritize worker well-being, which is a direct contravention of professional conduct expected of IBEW members. Ignoring the hazard altogether or assuming it will resolve itself is a critical failure in professional responsibility and a direct violation of safety protocols, potentially leading to severe accidents and legal ramifications. Professionals should employ a systematic decision-making process that begins with recognizing a potential hazard. This is followed by immediate assessment of the risk, consultation of relevant safety procedures and regulation, communication with supervisors or safety officers, and implementation of appropriate control measures before resuming any work. This structured approach ensures that all safety concerns are addressed thoroughly and in compliance with established standards. Question 18. The risk matrix shows a potential for electrical hazard if a task requiring specialized conduit bending is performed by an apprentice without direct supervision. The apprentice is aware of the general procedure, but has not completed the advanced training specific to this type of conduit. Option A. The apprentice should delegate the task to another apprentice who claims to have seen a journeyman perform it once, without verifying their actual skill level. Option B. The apprentice should inform their supervisor that they lack the specific advanced training for this task and request that a journeyman electrician with the appropriate certification be assigned to perform it. Option C. The apprentice should proceed with the task, relying on their general knowledge and attempting to complete it as quickly as possible to meet the project deadline. Option D. The apprentice should attempt the task, but only after watching a brief online video tutorial on advanced conduit bending, assuming this will provide sufficient knowledge. The correct answer is C. The apprentice should proceed with the task, relying on their general knowledge and attempting to complete it as quickly as possible to meet the project deadline. Explanation. The scenario presents a professional challenge where an IBEW member is asked to perform a task outside their immediate scope of expertise, potentially impacting safety and compliance. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the need to complete work efficiently with the absolute priority of adhering to established safety protocols and the IBEW jurisdictional agreements. Careful judgment is required to assess the risks involved and to ensure that all actions are taken in accordance with the union's standards and relevant regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes safety, skill verification, and adherence to jurisdictional boundaries. By consulting with a supervisor and ensuring the task is assigned to a qualified member, the individual upholds the IBEW commitment to competent workmanship and the protection of its members and the public. This aligns with the ethical obligation to perform work safely and effectively, and the regulatory requirement to operate within established trade classifications and skill sets. An incorrect approach that involves attempting the task without proper qualification or authorization would represent a failure to uphold professional standards and a disregard for safety regulations. This could lead to faulty work, potential injury, and disciplinary action from the union. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the request or performing the task inadequately, demonstrates a lack of teamwork and commitment to project completion, which can also have negative repercussions. A third incorrect approach, like misrepresenting one's qualifications, is a direct ethical and potentially legal violation, undermining trust and the integrity of the trade. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of their own skill set and the scope of the task. If there is any doubt about their ability to perform the task safely and competently, or if it falls outside their designated jurisdiction, the next step is to seek clarification and guidance from a supervisor or union representative. This ensures that the work is assigned appropriately and that all safety and jurisdictional requirements are met, fostering a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. Question 19. The audit findings indicate a pattern where some IBEW aptitude test administrators are prioritizing the speed at which candidates complete problem-solving sections over the detailed breakdown of their logical steps and reasoning process. This has led to a debate about the most effective method for assessing a candidate's aptitude for the electrical trade. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the stated objectives of the IBEW aptitude test in evaluating problem-solving capabilities? Option A. Assigning higher scores to candidates who finish the problem-solving sections in the shortest amount of time, assuming speed correlates directly with competence. Option B. Incorporating subjective interpretations of a candidate's confidence level or perceived intelligence during the test administration to influence scoring. Option C. Evaluating the candidate's demonstrated thought process, including how they deconstruct the problem, identify key information, and apply logical steps, even if the final answer has minor inaccuracies. Option D. Focusing solely on whether the candidate arrives at the exact correct answer, irrespective of the method or reasoning used to reach it. The correct answer is C. Evaluating the candidate's demonstrated thought process, including how they deconstruct the problem, identify key information, and apply logical steps, even if the final answer has minor inaccuracies. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential discrepancy in the interpretation and application of IBEW aptitude test guidelines concerning the assessment of candidates' problem-solving abilities. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a nuanced understanding of how to evaluate qualitative skills within a standardized testing framework, ensuring fairness and accuracy without resorting to subjective biases or misinterpretations of the test's intent. The core challenge lies in balancing the need for objective measurement with the inherent subjectivity of assessing cognitive aptitudes. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a holistic evaluation of a candidate's response, considering the underlying logic and reasoning process demonstrated, rather than solely focusing on the final answer. This aligns with the IBEW aptitude test's objective of identifying individuals with strong foundational problem-solving skills applicable to the electrical trade. By analyzing the candidate's approach, including their ability to break down a problem, identify relevant information, and apply logical steps, the assessment remains true to the test's purpose. This method ensures that candidates who may not arrive at the perfect solution but exhibit sound reasoning are appropriately recognized, fostering a more equitable and effective selection process. This approach is ethically sound as it promotes fairness and avoids penalizing candidates for minor errors in calculation or execution if their fundamental understanding and problem-solving methodology are robust. An incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on the correctness of the final answer, regardless of the candidate's demonstrated thought process, fails to meet the IBEW aptitude test's objectives. This is ethically problematic as it can unfairly disadvantage candidates who possess strong analytical skills but make small errors, potentially leading to the rejection of qualified individuals. It also misinterprets the purpose of an aptitude test, which is to gauge potential and underlying abilities, not just the ability to recall or perfectly execute a specific solution. Another incorrect approach that involves introducing external, non-standardized criteria or personal biases into the evaluation process is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This undermines the integrity and standardization of the IBEW aptitude test, creating an uneven playing field for candidates. Such an approach violates principles of fairness and objectivity, potentially leading to discriminatory outcomes and compromising the validity of the test results. It also deviates from the established guidelines for administering and scoring the aptitude test. A further incorrect approach that involves overemphasizing speed of completion without considering the accuracy and depth of the problem-solving process is also flawed. While efficiency is important in the trades, the IBEW aptitude test is designed to assess cognitive capabilities. Prioritizing speed over the quality of reasoning can lead to the selection of candidates who are quick, but may lack the thoroughness and analytical rigor required for complex electrical work. This approach misaligns with the test's core purpose of evaluating problem-solving aptitude. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough review of the IBEW aptitude test's official guidelines and scoring rubrics. Professionals must understand the specific competencies the test aims to measure and the approved methods for assessing them. When faced with ambiguous responses or challenging evaluations, it is crucial to consult with experienced assessors or supervisors. Engage in calibration exercises to ensure consistent application of scoring criteria and maintain a commitment to fairness and objectivity. The decision-making process should always be grounded in the established regulatory framework and ethical principles of aptitude assessment. Question 20. The investigation demonstrates that a newly initiated IBEW apprentice electrician has received conflicting instructions on a critical safety procedure for energized equipment from two different senior members. One senior member advises following a shortcut method they have used for years, while another insists on adhering strictly to the detailed steps outlined in the official IBEW safety manual. The apprentice is unsure which instruction to follow to ensure both safety and compliance. Option A. The apprentice should proceed with the task using the method they believe is quickest, as efficiency is often valued in the trade. Option B. The apprentice should consult the official IBEW safety manual and seek clarification from their union steward or a designated safety representative to ensure the procedure is performed according to established, documented safety standards. Option C. The apprentice should follow the shortcut method advised by the senior member who has more years of experience, assuming their method is proven effective. Option D. The apprentice should ignore the conflicting instructions and attempt the task using their best judgment without consulting any official sources or senior members. The correct answer is B. The apprentice should consult the official IBEW safety manual and seek clarification from their union steward or a designated safety representative to ensure the procedure is performed according to established, documented safety standards. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where an apprentice electrician, new to the IBEW, is presented with conflicting information regarding safety protocols for a specific task. This situation is professionally challenging because it directly impacts the safety of the apprentice and potentially others, as well as the integrity of the union's established standards. The apprentice must navigate differing interpretations of safety procedures, which could stem from experienced members' informal practices or a misunderstanding of official guidelines. Careful judgment is required to prioritize established, documented safety procedures over potentially unsafe or outdated informal methods. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to the official IBEW safety manual and relevant OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration regulations. This ensures that all work is performed according to the highest safety standards, minimizing risk of injury and ensuring compliance with legal requirements. Consulting with a union steward or safety representative further reinforces this by providing a clear channel for clarification and ensuring that any deviations are properly authorized and documented, if permissible under specific, documented circumstances. This aligns with the IBEW commitment to worker safety and the legal obligations under OSHA. An incorrect approach that involves disregarding the official safety manual and relying solely on the advice of a senior member, even if well-intentioned, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses established safety protocols, potentially exposing the apprentice and others to hazards. This violates the spirit and letter of IBEW safety standards and OSHA regulations, which mandate documented and approved procedures. Another incorrect approach, that of proceeding with the task without seeking clarification, demonstrates a failure to exercise due diligence and a disregard for potential risks. This can lead to accidents and noncompliance. Finally, an approach that involves questioning the validity of the official manual without a proper basis or without following established grievance procedures is also professionally unacceptable, as it undermines the authority of documented standards and can lead to confusion and unsafe practices. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue, conflicting safety information. The next step is to consult authoritative sources, such as the official IBEW safety manual and relevant regulatory bodies, OSHA. If ambiguity persists, seeking guidance from designated union officials, stewards, safety representatives is crucial. This process ensures that decisions are informed, compliant, and prioritize safety above all else.